A very good morning, afternoon, and evening to each and every single one of you of my precious pack. Welcome back once more to VEGA Conflict. It's Friday and it is time for a concept idea video, and it involves this certain lady right here, Nita, however you want to pronounce her name. I'm just going to call her Nita, because I'm too lazy to actually find out how to pronunciate it. The idea actually comes from being a concept of having her as a fleet commander further down the line after certain events play out. Let's go ahead and let's go over to the Fleet Commanders tab, and I'll start talking about the initial response from her, which is essentially this. You'll get a briefing like this before the mobilization or whatever she would be in, that is her speaking, and then after it, you'll have a single person or a second post after it, and it'll be another person, which I will actually further explain. Let's go ahead and let's jump over to the Fleet Commander tab, and we'll talk a bit about her and share why her stats are the way they are, and I'll explain a bit of why I'm suggesting certain stats be in certain locations and activatable by the unique benefit of having 6 Altairian ships in the fleet instead of what you would typically expect of a unique fleet commander of the RPS system. Let's go ahead and just bring up the 2 main fleet commanders that I can think of, and these are both ones that are triggered by using certain faction ships that belong to the that belong to their respective RPS faction. And I'm only bringing up these 2 because there's only 2 that actually have it that provide bonus damage to them, and also provide some resistance to the damage type they're supposed to be using, or that they actually have by default to boost it further. So in this case, this is heavily built towards anti-Altairian, because alien resistance for your Umbral ships, and Victus is heavily built up towards Umbral combat because of the blight resistance for your standard ships, as well as the increased plasma damage, and Victoria does the same thing, increased blight damage. So, how does Nita fit in as a fleet commander for these 2? Or between them, or somewhere? Well, I actually have stuff pulled up in the background I'll actually go ahead and talk about for a minute, because I have a small little piece written up. First, let's take a look at her introduction that I have written up. Altairian Nita as a fleet commander. And this is what she would say as the introduction, as I said in a post before her monthly event leading up to her being obtainable. As much as it would joy me to see you primitive spacefarers vanish, I have found some use for you and shall stay your species' extinction for the time being. Sounds like her because she hates our guts. You know, kind of let her brother die recently. Well, technically we didn't actually do anything. Somebody else did. We're just taking the blame. But that is the initial briefing. This is what I would expect Effectively, this is what I would expect this to be. I would expect her description to be something like this, and have an additional note at the bottom from Burr, which I think that people get a little bit of a laugh out of. Okay. It's just making one quick change at the very end. Nita, High Commander of the Oligarch Remnants, is a tactically cunning master of war. She has led countless engagements against Pharmacon and Umbra with efficient and deadly resolve. Nita prefers to lead from the front lines, where she may change the battle plans to ensure victory instantaneously. Her tactical knowledge mixed with her understanding of Altairian shells, weapon systems, reactors, and engines makes her a great ally. And now for the little portion of it that is a comment from Burr that would go at the bottom in parentheses. I still don't know what you said or offered her, but her insight into battles will be a great advantage against the Pharmacon and Umbra. In this case, it's just the Pharmacon because you're going to be fighting them. And the rest of it is, though this alliance with her is extremely unstable, Commander. And that's what Burr would say. And Burr is, well, most of us know who Burr is by now. And now for the after portion of the event, for the closing comment or something like that. And it is, give her some time, everybody. Or everyone, either way, the same sentence applies. She needs it. Unknown commander after private meeting with Nita. So, someone met with her privately to get her to at least see, from the human's perspective, that it's a war that they can't win alone, and it's a war that Nita can't win alone. And now for my suggested stats. Let's make sure I have the other fleet commander up, Victus, because I'm taking a few of the stats from him as well as a few stats from other commanders. In total, we have 5 stat bonuses, 1 uniquely activated and 4 standard. And the same applies to just about each of the commanders. You have 4 standard stats and 1 bonus stat. So, let's go ahead and let's take a look specifically at what she would give. First, in the first stat, she would give, at max rank, level 100, 12,940 to the shield energy at level 100. And that'd be additional over whatever the current value is, so it would be the same as his. Second stat, 5% shield regeneration per second with no delay at level 100, and it's implemented in a 20 level increment, so you get the first one at 20, second at 40, 60, 80, and the final one at 100 as you would expect. The next is the increased alien damage, and it is a 10% increased alien damage at level 100, and yes, where the activatable bonus for the bonus damage would be, there's actually something else, and this is just a standard stat instead, and I'll explain why later. 10% resistance, 10% additional resistance to plasma damage at level 100, and again, that is a base stat that is increased, that is not affected by having certain ships in the fleet or anything like that. Finally, we get to the one that is unique to each one in that they have to use their own vessels, and this is specifically to help the Altairians against the Pharmacon. And this is the one that I'm going to have to explain a bit. 50% increased weapon speed, affecting all weapons when using 6 Altairian ships within a fleet. Now, one thing is, even at close range, I noticed that a lot of time Pharmacon enters phase when their screens are extremely low, and they can hit you, but you can't hit them. Even though your Altairians can fire, the rounds just aren't quick enough. So this is partially to help increase the speed, and since this is a 50% increase by default if you use all 6, it's essentially like taking an on-guard overdrive generator from a Sovereign and having it active all the time on any and all Altairian ships in a fleet. This means they would also affect carrier weapons, so theoretically you could strap missiles to it, the Hammerhead missiles, and they would be phenomenally quick and it would be extremely difficult to dodge them. Alternatively, it would also stack with the on-guard overdrive as well, because that, when you have 3 targets in range, also boosts the weapon speed by 50%. So you would effectively be doubling your weapon speed by mixing the two together. And the thought process behind that was exactly as I stated. The Pharmacon enter phase a little bit too quickly after their screens have been depleted, so it's to try and make sure you can hit them during the time frame in which the screen is actually supposed to be charging up, so you can actually deny them that ability to run. And I can find other uses for it as well, but I also wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be something overpowered against something like the Umbra. Now, most weapons, they hit anyways, so I just wanted to make it so that they could hit a little bit sooner. Get the first strike off, things like that. Give the Altairians a little bit of an edge over the Pharmacon. However, in the case of against Umbra, since Umbra don't phase, it doesn't really matter because they're going to be coming at you to pummel you into the ground, steal your health, and regenerate their ablative armor, so there's not much you can do to stop them. And I have ideas for umbral weapons and stuff like that. That'll be the concept for next week. But this is going to be it for this week, everybody. The concept idea is, once again, the Altairian Nita. Let's go ahead and let's jump back over to her for a minute. Okay. And again, this is the Altairians, the Oligarch leader, high commander, whatever she's officially designated as fleet commander. And this is after certain events transpire, and she essentially, in my mind, she loses her fight against the Pharmacon. She no longer has the necessary forces to be able to fight. She turns around and tries to attack the rebels again. However, they beat her once, and she's in no position to fight, and instead, a certain fleet commander or a certain commander in general will approach her after several arguments about eradication of the species and yada yada yada, and gets her to join. Now, it could be explained later why she actually joins, to help add lore to it, other than just saying, hey, she's a fleet commander now for some reason in private. It could be leaked, Sybil shares files with people or something like that, and it states that, oh, hey, this person did this as a response to something else to get her to join, and she saw the reason for joining as the same that he did. It could be anything from both species could be facing extinction because the Umbral and the Pharmacon threat is just too great to face alone, and the Altairians need to pair up due to their advanced knowledge of heavy, weaponry that we just typically can't build without them. However, they need crews to man the ships because their species is, as I said, they're mostly depleted. It's ideas like this that I always find interesting because it can have a lore aspect behind them, but it can have an in-game effect. But that's going to be it, everybody. Go ahead and discuss the idea down below in the comment section. I really want to hear what you have to say about it. And as always, be safe out there in the void, and I will see you in the next video.